Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. I'm your host, Jermine Alberty, and I'm thrilled to have you join me for this special episode on International Happiness Day. That's right, my friends. Today, March 20th, is International Happiness Day. I didn't know this day even existed. But today, we're talking about something that touches all of us, happiness. But more than just feeling good, we're diving deep into the ideal of having power over your happiness. That's right, my friends. Today's title of our podcast is Having Power Over Your Happiness. We're going to discuss how to attain it, sustain it, and even protect it from the pressures of life and the expectations of others. That right there sounded real good to me. How do we, one, attain it, sustain it, and protect it? What is important to note is that happiness isn't just about this fleeting joy or temporary satisfaction. Some of y'all go back with me. I found sunshine on a cloudy day when it was cold outside. Y'all know what I'm talking about. What can make me feel this way? My girl. But sometimes your girl don't make you feel happy all the time, or your man, or whoever it may be. But I found sunshine on a cloudy day. I think everybody's looking for sunshine in these cloudy days that we're living in. But happiness isn't just about fleeting joy or temporary satisfaction. It's really about cultivating deep, and I mean deep, a deep sense of contentment and peace. That's all I want in this life is peace, joy, and stability. Some peace, some joy, and some stability, and some freedom along with that. But see, here's the challenge. The challenge is, how often do we allow other people, secrets, or even the pressure to imitate others steal our happiness? That's some deep stuff. Listen, this is a Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty, and I'm so glad you've joined us. Listen, y'all, I am excited to explore with you all two incredible friends who happen to be my guest today, Reverend Janice Green. I'm using Reverend, just using Reverend Dr. Janice Green, my buddy, my friend. She's going to share with us some profound insights about the emotional and spiritual burdens of keeping secrets and how that burden can weigh down our happiness. And then our return guest to the Salt Talk, my buddy, my friend, Reverend Antoine Roston. I'm using Reverend again. The reason why I'm using Reverend, y'all, because all three of us are reverends. But let me tell you something. Although we are people of God, love God, the people of God, we live life just like anybody else. Have our wrestles, our struggles, our pain, our griefs. And this is my circle of care right here. I invited my circle of care to be on this podcast because when I'm having trouble, I call Janice, I call Antoine, and maybe one more person, maybe one or two other people. This is my circle of care, y'all. So I thought, what better way for me to share my circle of care with y'all? These are my people. So Reverend Green, I'm just going to call you Janice after this is all over with, though, right? Janice and Antoine, who wants to go first and share with the listening audience just a little bit about you? Antoine, why don't you go, man? Why don't you go?
Oh, well, I'm a dude that's got a background in church, community work, business owner, author, helped a lot of people, counseled a lot of people, taken a lot of loss, overcame a lot, persevered. Happiness is something that I have had to really fight for.
Yeah.
So I look forward to this discussion.
Yeah, I invited Antoine to talk about the importance of being authentic and how the temptation to imitate others can rob us of our true joy and peace. We was talking about that this morning. He was like, man, trying to imitate other folks can rob. I was like, brother, on the podcast, I need you to talk about that. And then Janice and I was talking, and I was like, I'm going to do this podcast. She was talking about keeping secrets. And I was like, oh, then that will rob you of your happiness too. So Janice, tell us about yourself.
So thank you so much, Jermaine, for, choosing me to come and be a part of this important topic. I know that I struggled for a long time, with keeping secrets in my own life, right? And I'm so grateful that I'm learning still because, I'm in recovery, 33 years coming up, and I learned how to keep secrets at a very young age, you know what I'm saying? And so I didn't know how how sick those secrets kept me until I started exposing, what was going on inside my head and started to get better. I'm so grateful for everything that I've gone through in my life because I can see how God has used all of my trials and all of my tribulations, all my good, bad, and ugly to help those that come into my path today. So, real grateful to be talking about this topic today.
Yeah, and like I've been telling Janice this, you're gonna do my podcast. You're gonna do a pod, you're gonna be on the podcast. I've been telling her that. And
Is this the first one for her?
it's the first one for the first podcast for Janice. I've been saying, it ain't the last one. This ain't the last one. This ain't the last
I'm
one.
just surprised. Like,
Listen, and what's really cool is like divine connections. My boy Antoine was like, Janice looks like my auntie. I was like, really? She even sounds like her a little bit. I was like, yeah, look, God sent you another auntie. And from that point forward, Janice was like, how my nephew doing? So listen, it's stuck, Once again,
Yeah.
divine connection here. I want to talk about happiness from three different perspectives. One, philosophical, the other theological, and the other social. So three different areas. And I'm going to ask you to kind of jump in with that a little bit, but I found some fascinating research from the United Nations World Happiness Report that sheds light on the state of happiness around the world and what factors contribute to that long-term well-being. And we're going to dive into that too a little bit. So what I want to do is jump into our segment one, which is what is happiness from a philosophical, theological, and social perspective. What we know is that happiness has been explored by philosophers, theologians, social scientists for centuries. Let's break it down a little bit. So from this philosophical perspective, a philosopher like Aristotle believed that happiness isn't about fleeting pleasure, but it's about living a life of virtue and meaning. Think about that, living a life of virtue and meaning. What he talked about is how happiness is about a state of fulfillment that comes from living in alignment with your values and your purpose. Fast forward to more modern thinkers, we see modern thinkers who saw happiness as linked to being authentic and also self-acceptance. Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that happiness comes from living freely and not conforming to societal pressures. Aristotle values purpose alignment. Jean-Jacques Rousseau talks about freely and not conforming to societal pressures. Talk to me about that from that philosophical perspective. What did that mean to you all? What resonated with you all? And I know I got three preachers on this podcast, so y'all get your pens, get your paper, get your iPads. Philosophical, yes. Talk to me.
the ladies first.
Well, I didn't know what happy was. I did not know the definition of happy because in my life, I grew up just trying to survive, right? So when I started growing and experiencing those fleeting moments of happiness, like I'd buy a new something or buy a new car, I was happy, or I would buy a new dress, I was happy. But what I found out was those things that I would buy, those things that I would engage in to get happy, they didn't last.
Mm-hmm.
It was only for a moment. And then when the newness wore off, I had to look for something else, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember throughout my life, I was like, God, what do you want me to do on this planet? What do you want me to be on this planet? And I kept searching and striving, looking outside and trying different things just so that I could feel happy, comfortable, a part of. And when I finally accepted a call
Yeah.
to serve
Mm-hmm.
in all areas,
Mm-hmm.
not just in the pulpit, not just on my job, but
Mm-hmm.
just to serve on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That was fulfilling to me. I was able to say, wow, now I know why I was put here on this planet, right? Now I know that when I get downloads from God and he's, and I know it's not me, he speaks to me to other people to give them what they need. That's when I find myself in that zone. It's like, okay, all is well with the world. So that's where I have come to understand for me
Yeah. Yeah.
what it means to be happy.
By the way, Janice is part of my SALT community. So is Antoine, part of the SALT community. Y'all know this is SALT Talk, and SALT stands for serve, affirm, love, and transform. That's what we're doing here in this with the SALT Talk and the SALT community. Antoine, talk to us about the idea of aligning one's values, purpose, as well as living freely from conforming to societal pressures as this ideal of philosophical happiness.
Well, though we kind of mentioned a little bit about what we would talk about earlier today, it's amazing. From our conversation, I began to think on some things. So here's about 3 things I thought about. One, I grew up in church hearing my pastor said that happiness is predicated on what's happening.
Mm.
And there's some truth to that. Janice just spoke to it. I go buy a dress, I go buy a new car, I go put myself in the house, I got a new girl, I got a new vacation, or whatever's happening at the moment, I'm happy in that moment. But I like to think that happiness is a lot deeper than that. A lot of time we're always looking for something external to bring about some type of happiness. But really, happiness has to do with you and your inner being, what you believe about yourself, what you believe, like Janice was talking about your purpose. I thought about that, how I have my gift is serving. That's a gift I have. I do it well. That's why my chauffeur business does well, because I know how to serve. Nobody has to tell me to be security when we're in a situation where eyes need to be more keen. Nobody needs to tell me to get the bag. Nobody needs to tell me to open the door. Nobody has to, it's just a natural ability that I have is to serve. And then, so when I'm not serving, because just a tid tad, I ain't really been locked in church like I've been in the past. And that's a whole nother session. But part of that came from church to some degree. But my purpose in serving in community, serving and being concerned about other people is derived from that. So being disconnected from that allows isolation that brings about not always being happy, because you're not out doing what you're supposed to do. Now, part of my problem was that the pressure, as we're discussing, the pressure of kind of being a part of the crowd or doing or mimicking the ideologies that are being passed off to you often robs you of happiness because you're not being authentic. The worst thing in the world is to go through life not being your authentic self. And this would be a whole nother other topic too. But it's why I have changed my stance about other people's lifestyles and things of that nature, because I'd rather you be authentic to who you believe you are than you trying to put on the front and fake and end up in a miserable situation where one unalive themselves, take someone else's life, or just live a life just burden, you know what I mean, and just down and out and suffering. Why would we think that God would want anyone to suffer because we're trying to make everybody a carbon copy? There is nobody that's the same. Like, none of us the same. Our fingerprints all kind of favor, but they're not the same. And if something so minute as that is not the same, how much more is purpose, design, intelligence, charisma, all of those things that make a person a person. And I just believe that happiness really comes from within. It comes from the freedom of being comfortable with yourself and then just going all out, being who you are.
Listen, this is some rich stuff, right? This bring y'all two powerhouses together, some deep stuff here. From a theological perspective, from a Christian perspective, happiness is not just about personal satisfaction, but it's about spiritual alignment. Some in the Christian tradition would turn to John 15:11. I've told you this so that my joy may be in you, that your joy may be complete. In the Christian tradition, true happiness comes from this deep relationship with God, living out our faith, serving others. Happiness is not about external circumstances. It's about an inner peace that comes from knowing God's love and God's grace. In Judaism, happiness is a combination of spiritual fulfillment, good deeds, and positive relationships. In Judaism, many forms of Judaism, it emphasizes the importance of serving God with joy and gratitude, as well as striving to create a better world. In Islam, it views happiness as a combination of worldly success and spiritual fulfillment, with a strong emphasis on living according to Islamic principles.
And we switch to Muslim.
Yeah, when we talk about other traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism, we hear of bliss or happiness, this place where there's eternal joy or peace. In Buddhism, happiness emphasizes mindfulness and compassion and ethical conduct as paths to happiness and enlightenment. Every philosophical, theological perspective has its own thought process of what brings happiness. And I think what can be so distressing is when one tradition wants to have a monopoly on what it means to be happy. You know what I'm saying? I always say the problem I find with many traditions is that it is, in order to affiliate, you must assimilate.
Absolutely.
And so you spend a whole lifetime trying to take off, put on, take off, put on, take off, put on, trying to fit into the mold to realize you ain't happy at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
This could really spiral into a whole different kind of podcast. So I'm going to try to bring it back in because spiral. And here's what I'm saying to those who are listening, because I know there's people who are listening who are like, are they really saved? Do they really love Jesus? Yes and yes. Saved and love Jesus. And the thing about it, though, is through theological reflection, though, I have a greater understanding of the teachings of Jesus and really been able to dissect a lot of the ideology that has been imposed and really understand what it means to be in true relationship with God.
You know, as you were saying that, I was thinking about the scripture. Jesus says, I came to give you life.
Mm-hmm.
And not just a normal life. I came to give you a life of abundance. Mm. And I used to think that life of abundance was wealth, material things. And it is health and all of those things. Mm-hmm. But I also know that Jesus wants us to be happy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jesus wants us to enjoy our life and not be depressed, not walk around sad all the time. Mm. Yes, things in life are going to trip us up and make us sad, or we're going to grieve. We're going to have all of those human emotions. But the key is not to stay there, right? And so I go back to the secrets. Mm-hmm. If my mind is telling me that I'm not worthy, if my mind is telling me, as I learned growing up, some of us grew up in what goes on in the house stays in the house. You don't talk about that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So we grew up with that. And so when we really needed to expose those things to save our lives, we kept those secrets, which kept us sick. Mm-hmm. And so I've had to learn from myself and for those that I know that are going through life now, struggling. Mm-hmm. wanting to commit suicide, wanting to gamble, wanting to use dope, but afraid to say anything about it because what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? And what I've learned is they're going to say something. They're going to think regardless if you say something or not. They're going to have an opinion. So unburdening ourselves so that we can be, as Antoine said, our authentic self, so that we can be healthy, joyous, free. It's like, let's expose what's going on inside our brain, even if you find one somebody.
That's right. That's right. That's why I have you all, because like I said earlier, you all are my circle of care. But you all who I can count on. And Antoine, I want you to jump in. But before you jump in, Janice talked about people who want to die by suicide. I have to jump in and most definitely tell you that if you listen to this podcast and you have thoughts of suicide or you're in crisis, I want you to make note of 988, the 988 Lifeline. If you need to talk to someone, 988 Lifeline is here. It is the Suicide in Crisis Lifeline. And so I want you, whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need someone to talk to, there are caring counselors that are there for you. You're not alone. Go to 988lifeline.org. You can hit on that website a button to call, a button to text, a button to chat. And if you're deaf or hard of hearing, even a button, you can push those buttons there in order to reach someone. My friends, you are not alone. Call, text, chat. If you're deaf or hard of hearing, you can reach somebody at 988. So I want you to go to that website, 988lifeline.org. Call the number 988 if you are having thoughts of suicide. If you are experiencing some mental health challenge, please reach out for help. You are not alone. You are not alone. I just wanted to throw that in there because it's so important, because people are in distress. People are.
That's real.
Antoine, you want to jump in there?
Oh man, yeah, I wanted to jump in there. You saw my mouth, but
yeah.
Janice said what she said about if it's just one person. What came to my mind was James 5:16, confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that you may be healed. This is the verses, the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous man availeth much. But that's what, like, we don't even understand all the principles that are even in the book and how to really apply it and why it's so important. Being able to talk to somebody about what's really going on in your head and your life, to bounce things off. That's what therapy is. But even when you're going to talk to your friend or your neighbor or who you trust, you got to know what you want from it. You still got to know what you want from it so you can even have an expected outcome from that. That's how therapy is. Therapy is not just going to go talk to somebody. You have to have an ideal of what you want out of that transaction, out of that experience that's going to help you get where you're trying to go. And when you want to be healed and you find someone that you can speak to and let them know, this is what my struggle is, this is where my wound is, this is where I'm hurting, this is what's on my mind, this is where I feel stuck, I can't go forward. And you have someone that you can talk to that will walk with you and get you to the other side is a blessing. But it also frees us to find ourselves, our authentic selves, to, like, so originally gay meant happy, right? But they onto something. Come out. Be free. Come out the closet. The truth is, most people are in a closet, whether it's the closet of shame, whether it's the closet of
hey brother, say it.
Come on, man. Whether it's the closet of expectations that they didn't feel like they lived up to. You know, a lot of people like myself are more condemning of themselves than anybody from the outside can be, because you have all these ideals of what you feel like you're supposed to be giving and presenting to the world, which is nothing that's ever been required of you. So yeah, we need to all come out the closet so we can be happy. And it doesn't mean sexually, it just means being comfortable with who you are naturally. You know, I was told to stop playing the drums when I was young, when I decided to not decide, when I felt called to ministry. I was told, put down your sticks. And it made sense at the time, because if you're known as a drummer that preaches, you'll be known as a drummer that preaches. But you want to be known as a preacher who happens to play the drums. So I understood it, but I hate that I did it, because that wasn't authentically what I wanted to do. You know, so here I am, at almost 49 years old. Now I'm in 3 bands, gigging, playing drums, happy as a Lord, making money. And I'm just like, just think what could have happened if I'd done this 30 years ago, you know? And but just conforming to ideas, I don't think God ever desire or designed us to conform to opinions, ideals, rules, and methodologies. He wanted us to conform to him. When we yield to him,
I knew this was
when we
going to
yield
be
to
good. I
him,
knew it.
to him, and
Yes.
we find our higher power, our spirituality, whatever reflects back to us the image that we're supposed to be. That's where we're going to find happiness.
So you brought out confession, the power of confession. And listen, I promise you, if I didn't have you and Janice and a few other folks who were part of my confession, you know, I can come through and go, hey, listen, you know, this is what's going on in my world, and know that you all are not going to judge me for whatever I tell you, but love on me, correct me. I've been corrected by both of you wonderful people. Ha ha ha. I'm saved. I didn't say what I wanted to say. I'm just like, but I've been, I've been corrected. I've been loved on, all that. And with that, I created a model called a triple A hope team. Y'all are my triple A hope team. What does that mean? It means you are accessible. Whenever I call you, y'all are there. Y'all answer the phone. Y'all are assuring to me. Most importantly, you are affectionate. I'm not affection to one another sometimes. We are so mean, judgmental, but y'all are accessible. You all are assuring. You are affectionate. So I would encourage you, if you're ever experiencing a hope deficit, that you have a team of people that you can call your triple A team, your triple A hope team, that are accessible, assuring, and affectionate. I promise you, this is my team, y'all. And this is my SALT community. And I'm excited about, I keep talking about the SALT community. Listen, y'all gonna learn more about the SALT community as we go into 2025, because this world needs salt. This world needs people who are serving, affirming, loving, and transforming themselves and individuals. Listen, talk about the world. So what does happiness looks like with a social perspective? On a social level, happiness is influenced by relationships, economic stability, and social support. 3 things, once again: relationships, economic stability, and social support. United Nations World Happiness Report ranks countries based on factors like income, social support, freedom, trust, and health. Say that again: income, social support, freedom, trust, and health. And the happiest countries were Finland, Denmark, and Iceland. They consistently ranked all high in those areas: income, social support, and freedom, trust, and health.
And where's the stressful United States on that list?
In 2024, it was 6.3 out of 10.
It's probably a 4.2.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But here's the catch: happiness is not solely about wealth or comfort. Studies showed this. Happiness was about meaningful connections, generosity, and purpose. All those things played a greater role in overall well-being than material success. meaningful connections, which we have, generosity, which we have, purpose, which we have. All those superseded material success as it relates to well-being. Listen, y'all have been listening to the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. We just got them in segment number 1. There is so much more to come with my guests. We're going to take a pause right now, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. We are headed to segment 2 with my guest, Reverend Janice Green, who we've been calling Janice because she's a friend and colleague. Is going to talk to us about the weight of secrets, because I really want to talk about this profound element that can undermine happiness, and that's the burden of keeping secrets. So I'm honored to have Janice join us and talk about this here. Janice, my first question is, you've worked as a chaplain, as a minister, as a sponsor, even with persons who have carried deep emotional wounds. And I would just love for you to share with our listening audience, how do you see secrets affecting their ability to experience happiness?
Yes, Jermaine, for me, I'm going to start with me. I believe that secrets for me stem from shame.
Mm-hmm.
Secrets for me stem from fear. That if I exposed or shared, any of my thoughts, you weren't going to like me. You wasn't going to accept me. You was going to think something was wrong with me. So I remember very early on in my recovery wanting to use. And one of the guidance that I got, you need to tell somebody if you feel like using, right? And my mind told me, don't tell nobody that you feel like using, because they're going to think something's wrong with you. Well, heck, I'm in recovery. I'm living in an abnormal state, not using. So it would make sense for me to want to use, but I had to white knuckle it one night. And I finally told somebody, you know what? I feel like using. And it was like a weight had lifted up off of me. So that desire to use was lifted because I had exposed it, right? But I think, especially when I'm finding with members or people that I work with that feel like I got this kind of clean time, or I got this sort of degree, or, I got all of these accolades. I shouldn't have these human thoughts or human desires. And so when I don't share what's going on with me, it's affecting my peace, because I'm trying to be my solution. I'm trying to be my pastor. I'm trying to be my own guidance, my own way out, when I really need a mirror or someone that can see me and help me and guide a light to say, this is, come on out this way, baby. I always share. When I keep secrets, I end up hiding behind a bush, jumping out of the bush and attacking my own self. Now, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's how I do me, because I have not exposed the disease, the devil, the lie, whatever you may want to call it, and it's continuing to burden me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm learning that as a chaplain, I've had a lot of veterans say, chap, I haven't told nobody this, but I'm telling you, right? And when those moments happen for me, I know I'm on holy ground.
Mm.
And what I know is, for me to expose what's going on or the secrets, I need to feel safe.
Yes.
I need to feel that this is a place where I won't be judged.
Yes.
Even if you don't give me no advice or tell me how to come out of it, just be present for me to expose what's going on. Because usually as I talk about what's going on, or when someone is talking about what's going on, they can hear themselves and come into their own solution. And the weight or the burden starts to lift as a result of. So creating a safe space is so important when people come into our space. Here's the other reason why I'm a good chaplain, because I can't remember nothing, right? So when people tell me, I mean, I forgot it 5-10 minutes later, right? So I'm grateful that I got people in my life like yourself, Jermaine, my sponsor, my pastor out of Cleveland that I can go to with my stuff, and they can hold it. They can hold me. They can hold what I'm telling them, and remind me, Janice, you're okay. This is normal. But here's the other thing that I had to learn. I'm not unique. I'm not the only one that thinks the way I think. And I think for me, that was a big burden for me. I thought I was so unique. I thought I was the only one losing my mind. I thought I was the only one that thought the way I thought, right? And that's not the case. So with my sponsees and so forth, it's a me too. When they come to me with that stuff, I'm like, okay, me too. I've been there. So that's the key to finding someplace safe to share whatever is going on with you. Because what I have learned is when you expose a secret, that power dies in the light of exposure.
Good stuff. Listen, we was talking earlier today, and you was talking about, I'm not sure if you want to share with the listening audience, but having an opportunity for folks to come and strip themselves of those secrets and have that space. And I think that the scripture that Antoine read earlier, it does give a qualifier. Those you who are spiritual, restore. Everybody ain't spiritual enough to be able to hear what you have to say, because it requires humility. It requires one who can listen non-judgmentally. It requires somebody who can restore those who are broken. So everybody ain't equipped to listen. But you talked about having opportunity for folks to just come and just confess, to strip themselves of that. If you want to share that, it kind of falls in alignment with my next question, which is, how can someone start to unburden themselves from those secrets? And I think confession is one of those things, but talk to us more.
So, I was talking to someone that very close to me that I sponsor. And as we were talking, there's this common theme with some women or people that's in recovery, that as they get a lot of clean time or sobriety and they haven't used, other manifestations of their addiction starts rising up, like gambling, shopping, sexing, and so forth. And what the issue is, nobody's talking about it. Nobody's saying, I am struggling in this area. So Spirit guided me, say, you know what? I need to go and create a space for these women to come. And I want them to feel safe enough. And I couldn't think of a popular name. I said, I'm gonna have a strip session where they can come. I want to create a safe atmosphere. We're gonna take off all of the pretenses, no makeup, no cutesy, whatever. And let's talk about, listen, let's throw up on one another. Let's get it out. What's been bogging us down and keeping us stuck? Because secrets keep you stuck. You can't move past them because we are so afraid of what people gonna say. If I got this kind of clean time, or if I got this kind of degree behind my name, or if I got all of this accolades, how can I even still think the way I think? Well, hell, we human. And what I'm grateful for to know is, like you talked about, be careful. Everybody's not equipped to be able to understand or hear what those secrets are. You know, a lot of people got church hurt because they have gone into church to try to get some relief, share some secrets, and they were judged.
Mm-hmm.
They were judged, they were ostracized because they wasn't holy enough, or they didn't pray enough, or they didn't do whatever enough. And I'm grateful for the fellowship that I'm in, that I've heard some stuff that I just blew my wig back. And I'm like, wow, they really said that, which freed me to say, oh, wow, if they can say that in a meeting or wherever, why? I ain't got no excuse. So I'm grateful that I have the excuses to keep secrets have been removed. I don't have no excuses to keep a secret, because there's too many people in my life that I can expose this from. And so my goal is, when I get to this, when I set this atmosphere up, and I don't know, my goal is to set the atmosphere up and allow God to be God in that session. Prayerfully, they will find some freedom from the burdens that's been troubling them. They can leave differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to leave the same way they came.
Mm-hmm.
You know how the church folks say, don't leave the same way you came.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to have some freedom. I want them to be able to breathe. I want them to at least lose 10 pounds from here.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you lose that weight, then you are free to allow some help to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some solutions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's find out, okay, so we here now. What do we need to do to go a different way?
Mm-hmm.
That's what unleashing secrets will allow you to do. Because once you lose that weight and you don't have that power over you no more, then you can allow a loving and caring spirit to fill that place where those secrets kept you bound.
Mm. My friends, y'all listening to the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. Our episode is Having Power Over Your Happiness. I kind of felt like I needed to put Not for the Saints logo on this episode because, there was a few things that have been said that some of the saints may be like, oh my goodness. But listen, let me just tell you that we have to make sure that when we're talking to folks, that we set aside all those pretenses and we meet folks right where they are. Because so many times what happens is people are putting on a front in order to maintain some sense of happiness, and they're not really happy. But they put on the front, we've heard this, I'm too blessed to be stressed and all that other stuff, and people are putting on fronts and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk to have my friend jump in here, Antoine, to talk about this danger of imitation, because I want to start another happiness thief, and that's imitation.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be someone you're not can steal your joy faster than anything else. And so I want to jump in here, Antoine, with this country. Once again, welcome again back to the show. But I want to jump in with my first question is, for you, have you seen how the pressure to imitate others can rob people of their happiness?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a church boy through and through. I was at every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Sunday afternoon, every Sunday evening, all week long if it was revival, all week long if it was convocation, all week long if it was just a fasting, whatever. Church boy. And the one thing that I noticed that makes me utterly sick even today, I'm not really affiliated with the organization like I was, but oh my God, if I meet somebody, you can see it. You know it. I can hear it. I can feel it because I was that way once. And it's just amazing that we're made to think. I've been called to preach, and immediately you're almost put on how to act, how to be. Have you ever met a 20-year-old? No, my favorite is the 12-year-old preacher who sounds like he's 80. The 20-year-old sound like he's 6. You ain't lived enough life to sound so miserable, so downhearted, no joy. You got so much judgment. You ain't lived long enough to have judgment because you ain't made that many mistakes, but just imitation. Now, something that my pastor always told us that I don't think everybody heard, but I heard him. He said, there's nothing wrong with admiring anyone. Being admiring someone and being inspired someone is commendable to the person, and commendable that you are that open and aware to be inspired. But you should never imitate. Always be true to thyself. My father used to always say, to thy own self be true. You know what they say, to our own self be true. And it's the truth. When you are going through life, imitating, not being yourself. When you run into that brick wall and you find out that not being your authentic self isn't going to get you past or over that wall, you hit that wall and then you become like Elijah. And now you're thinking you're the only one, like Janice alluded to. You're in the cave, you're hid, and you're depressed a lot of times, and you're confused, and you're beating up yourself, and you're feeling downtrodden, and you're feeling like you haven't accomplished. But have you ever thought that the reason why the imitator runs into the wall is because he's lost sight of his own path? And sometimes God is trying to redirect you so you can go down your path, so you can see what your purpose is, so you can find yourself, your voice, your uniqueness from your experiences. Because what made Reverend Bishop, Doctor, Daddy, Mama, whoever you imitating, who they are is their life experiences. You can never imitate that. You can never imitate that person. You can take on some of the characteristics and mix it in with your own life and make it something beautiful and better. But anytime you're trying to imitate, for instance, when we talk about happiness, a lot of people are miserable because they're looking at social media and looking at people's perceived happiness and perceived accomplishments and what they got. They got a Maybach and they got a Bentley and they got this and that and the third, but they ain't telling you how much their bills are. They ain't telling you how stressed out they are trying to keep up this image. They're not telling you that they're not happy in their home. We don't often find out until it's in the news that somebody unalived themselves, took somebody's life, divorced heavily, or something to that effect. And when you are admiring people and trying to imitate them, that even breaks you, because even your what you are trying to be like can't uphold what you believe they are. So it robs you from being experience happiness and true joy. What do they say? That comparison is the thief of joy and happiness. So finding who we are authentically, finding where our paths are, finding our purpose, finding what makes us unique, what we enjoy doing, where we enjoy being, things of that nature, that brings about that joy, that brings about that peace. And I want to even go back, because Jermaine, you had talked about the different religious aspects of happiness. And I've experienced that from a church aspect, from being in God and feeling my purpose and things of that nature, and being driven and excited about that and finding happiness with that. But I think there's another part of life that isn't always so rigid, that brings about the complete self. Going through being shot and going through this last 7 years of rediscovery, if you would, I discovered I didn't really like myself. That's what I'm in therapy now for right now. I discovered that I was living up to imagery and ideals, trying to get validation and appreciation, specifically from my mother, that led me down past that maybe wasn't even really what I wanted to be or do. But I'm looking for this whatever. And I concluded that if I would give my dang self some validation, man, when I going through therapy and just talking to my SALT group and realizing I've done a lot of wonderful things in the last 30 years of my life that when you look at my 18 years prior, probably didn't say that the things I've experienced in my life would be experienced. And here's the worst part. I couldn't even celebrate and enjoy it. So happiness is connecting to understanding your purpose, understanding what you're giving, and understanding what you're getting and enjoying the moment. I love that little TV with Poe, the Kung Fu Panda. I love Kung Fu Panda. They can go up to Kung Fu Panda 26, and I will be there in the movie theaters to see. I love it because though it was designed for kids, there were so many wisdoms and nugget wisdoms in that little movie. But I love when Sifu, no, is it Sifu or the turtle? It's the turtle. Sifu is a little raccoon. The turtle, I can't think of his name. Master, maybe it is Master Sifu. I don't know. Anywho, the turtle. He says something. He said, all we have, he said, we've been given the greatest gift in the world, and all we have is the present. He said that's why it's called the present. That's why it's called the present, because it's a gift. And if you don't stop and really smell the flowers, you'll go through life telling yourself you haven't accomplished nothing, you haven't overcome nothing, you haven't done nothing, you haven't been nowhere, you haven't done. And if you slow down and really smell the flowers and see your own story, you will be like, oh, MG, I went through all that and did this, and I'm still standing. I lost $100,000, but I'm still standing. I lost $28,000. I'm getting personal now, but I'm still standing. I got shot, lost the activities of my limb, but I'm still standing. I got shot through the face, couldn't talk for 8 months. My mouth was wired, couldn't get through, but I'm still standing. Didn't have an abusive parent, but I'm still standing. Didn't have all the money that I thought I needed, but I never went without. I ain't missed a meal. In fact, I had to lose weight. I almost got to 300 pounds. God has been good, and I have done some good things with my life. It's beautiful when people come up to you that you don't have a clue who they are, and they say, I remember you. You said, you came to my school. Your church was on the corner. Your church came to my neighborhood. Your church prayed for me. You prayed for me. You gave me groceries. You helped me pay bills. You gave me somewhere to live. And I don't think about that stuff, but I have to bow my head to myself and say, man, you've done a bumper job, bro. You've done a great job. You are a wonderful person. It's something to celebrate yourself. We don't do that enough. We don't celebrate ourselves enough to say, you know what? Good job. Because I don't know 10 people that could have got through everything that I've gotten through. Being homeless. I've been homeless. I've done everything but drugs. Now. You understand?
But I did that for you.
Yeah, hey, my daddy did all that for me. Okay, but I had a reason. I've had reasons to. You apply for churches that you more than qualified for, but somebody make a phone call and make sure you don't get in there. Boy, I've been through some stuff that I focused and used it as a negative, but I start turning around lately, looking at the positive. That happened, but I'm still standing. All bad things. The Bible says all things work together for your good. So that means we got to give excitement for the bad things and excitement for the good things, and understand that whatever it is can be used for good. And even those bad things, though it may hurt, the experience and the life lessons that come from it is invaluable. I don't have a degree. I'm working on one right now, but I promise you, my life has qualified me for a doctorate 2 times. So that's my point on, like, just finding yourself and loving yourself. You can't even effectively love others until you learn how to love yourself. So imitating other people is flattery.
Mhm.
It's flattery to admire people. Again, I'll say that again, and I'll close in my preacher voice. I'll close. but it's admirable to admire people and to be inspired by people, but you should never imitate anyone. God made you unique, and you need to find out what that uniqueness is, and you should be that.
Listen, we've had two guests. Janice Green, The Weight of Secrets. Antoine Ross, The Danger of Imitation. Listen, y'all, we're gonna take a break just for a moment. I want to say a happiness break. I want to say a praise break. We're gonna take a break just for a moment, and we're gonna wrap this thing up with segment number 4 and some closing remarks. This is the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty.
Cool.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to segment 4 of this episode, the Salt Talk with Jermine Alberty. Listen, we have had our guest here, Antoine Roston, Janice Green, talk about having power over your happiness. Listen, this has been a powerful, powerful podcast. And I want to just leave you all with some steps to attain and maintain your happiness. Let's look at 5 steps. By the way, 5 is the number of grace. We have to be gracious with ourselves and gracious with others. So step number 1 is practice gratitude. Research shows that consistently focusing on what you're thankful for increases happiness and reduces stress. Number 2, we want to cultivate being authentic and stop comparing ourselves to others and start embracing our own unique path. Step 3, we want to make sure that we're building meaningful relationships, those strong social connections, which are a major part and a major driver of long-term happiness. Me and Antoine talk about being at McDonald's, drinking coffee at an old age, just sitting there chilling. I'm upgrading that to sitting on the yacht at an old age.
Or at least a better coffee place.
Oh, better coffee place. Number 4, you've heard this, releasing those secrets and that guilt, letting go of emotional burdens through honesty and vulnerability. And step number 5 is finding that purpose. This is why I'm so excited about the Wake Up On and With Purpose coaching program, which you will learn more about as we launch that second cohort. Sometimes, hopefully, we're looking at maybe April or May, launching that cohort of you waking up on and with purpose. Because step 5 is this: when you learn to live a life aligned with your values and your faith and your purpose, it brings about a deeper and lasting happiness. Listen, my friends, as we wrap up, I want you to know that happiness isn't about chasing a feeling. It's about building a life that reflects your values, your faith, your authentic self. It's also about having power over your happiness by making intentional choices, releasing what weighs you down, and trusting your God for the plan that your God has for your life. Listen, to Janice and to Antoine, I want to thank both of you for sharing your wisdom today. And to all you listening, remember, happiness isn't something you find, but it's something that you create. I want to give Janice and Antoine just an opportunity to give their closing remarks as we get ready to wrap up.
Yes. As we wrap this up, what comes to mind is I was listening to Antoine shared such a powerful testimony. And when we expose our lives, when we share those secrets, they actually have power to help somebody else. They have the opportunity to free up, not just us, not just me, because I've exposed this secret, but whoever is listening to say, wow, to be able to liberate someone else and then become our authentic self saying, that wasn't so bad. I'm still alive. I'm not dead because I shared this. I can be happy. I'm supposed to be happy. I was born to be happy. And realizing that I am worth happiness. That took a long time for me to get a hold to, realizing that I am worth being happy. So that's what I would like to leave. That's my closing remarks.
Thank you, Janice. Antoine.
I've been writing down some notes, and I'm not as young as I used to be, so I got to look through the other lenses. But what comes to my mind is don't let bitterness rob you of joy and happiness. There will be bad days because that's life. But as Frankie Beverly left with us, there's joy and there's pain, sunshine and rain.
Hey.
Just keep living and find contentment in the moment, and always strive for more adventure and purpose in your life.
I want to thank once again Janice. I want to thank Antoine for joining us. March 20th, International Happiness Day. Having power over your happiness. Let's not just make one day Happiness Day, but let's make every day Happiness Day. I want to encourage you to go to actionforhappiness.org. And I also want to encourage you to go to 10daysofhappiness.org. There you'll find some resources of how you can take on that charge to be happy. Listen, you have been listening to the Soft Talk with Jermine Alberty. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and let me know what you're doing to protect your happiness this year. Until next time, take care and be well.